Hey guys, today we're going to talk about some awful news. So, just yesterday, if you heard about it in the news, there was a shooting at an airport. Now, let me talk to you about the story behind that shooting. What happened was, this man who went to the FBI, he had a loaded pistol on him. He said he felt as if he was a danger to himself and others. He said there were voices in his head. He said they were telling him to hurt people. And the several FBI agents sat him down and had a discussion with him for a few hours, and then they gave him back his pistol, fully loaded and cocked. And so what this man does is he leaves the FBI office, and he goes to an airport. He goes to the airport, and he starts shooting, and he kills several people. Now, this was in Florida. Florida is, as you all know, Florida is very, adamant about the right to carry. But, you're not allowed to have a gun in an airport, understandably. So, this crazy man tried to take action so that he would not hurt himself or others, and was almost immediately, returned his gun and fully loaded and cocked. Even after being clearly mentally unstable after talking to FBI agents for hours. So, yeah, he went and he shot up an airport. This is why we need more gun control laws. He didn't have a full psychological evaluation. You're supposed to give somebody like that a full psychological evaluation before you return their gun to them. But he did not have any evaluation. But within the conversation, it was pretty damn clear that he was not mentally okay. Nobody who is mentally okay says they have voices in their head that are telling them to hurt people and hurt themselves, and others. So, I don't know what was going through these FBI agents' heads. They should be immediately, their jobs should be immediately terminated. They are the reasons behind this shooting. Their jobs should be immediately terminated and they should be replaced. Not only that, but we should look at this and say, hey, maybe before we let somebody buy a gun, they should have a psychological evaluation. Now, sure, some of you might say that that's an invasion of privacy and it's against the Constitution, and I'd say, no, it is not against the Constitution because it is working in the interest of protecting people. It is not saying that you cannot bear arms. It is saying that if you have a history of violent mental illness, or if you have been evaluated and you have been found to be mentally unsound in a violent way, you should not be able to have access to said gun or weapon. That is, you can't just expect a criminally insane person, when you're going to the gun shop to sign, I am not mentally ill, and for that to be true. Or I do not have a history of violence, and for that to be true. They're going in there to buy a gun. If they do have a history of that, they wanted the gun in the first place, so they went to get it. There is no rationalization for that. There is no way to get yourself out of that. Because you know it's true. You know that if you were criminally insane and you were trying to get a gun, and all they gave you was a form that asks, do you have a history of violence? Or do you experience mental illness? You check no, because you just want the gun. It's not the protocol measures are so light. It's easy to get a gun even in the states with supposedly heavy gun control. Take Boston, for instance. Sure, might be hard to get it across, some state borders, or to get it pretty much out of Mass, but you could still buy a gun in Massachusetts or in Boston by simply signing out a sheet of paper, and you'd have it the same day. If you go into a gun store, walk out an hour later with a gun with 100+ rounds of ammunition and an assault clip, for all I care. That's completely possible and completely easy to do in even a liberal state like Mass. Now this is worrying because it shows that even our strongest gun control isn't enough to get to stop shootings from happening. Now, we can't fully stop shootings from happening, but if in a world where guns are more controlled, harder to get, then that will stop more shootings from happening. Now, I'm not necessarily in favor of gun-free zones. I was talking to somebody about this earlier. I think that we should have police officers guarding all the entrances at schools. Now, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of some of the things the police have done. They've done some disgusting things. But that's not all police. Not every policeman is gonna shoot an innocent man. But what this boils down to is we need harder to get guns, and we need police in places that would be prime targets for shootings, especially public schools and rural towns, because that's where most school shootings take place. Let's be honest, school shootings rarely ever take place in city environments. Sure, the Virginia Tech was a city environment, but they rarely ever take place outside of a small town. The Columbine, that was small town. Sandy Hook, small town. They're all small town rural areas. So especially in small town rural areas, there needs to be police guarding school entrances and making sure no one with that is questionable should get through. So they need metal detectors, and the police need to be armed to defend themselves. They need metal detectors. They should have to search someone's bag if they're entering late. There should be also metal detectors at every entrance, so that you can so that their bags or whoever's entering can be searched. Now this seems kind of idealistic, I know, because it would be pretty hard to search everybody's bag, and a lot of metal detectors are gonna go off with phones and stuff. But just anything really, anything to make there be one less school shooting, one less child suffering in this world. I talk about antinatalism. This all roots back to stopping suffering, to end suffering. And to end suffering in the modern world, we need guns to be more controlled. Anyway, guys, I know this was some terrible, harrowing news, but, just keep your head up, man. You gotta keep going forward. You can't let the world keep you down, because if you let the world keep you down, then you'll never live life to the fullest. And your pain and suffering will just be amplified by the feeling of letting life bring you